How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Coffee and Critique. I'm your host, Zain. We have a very special guest today. We have Mike Dean, a filmmaker, writer, and a comic book creator, right?
That's right.
Right. So he's going to be here talking to us about Superbud, his comic, and he's been working on that since 2014. So can you let the audience know who you are?
So, yeah, I'm Mike Dean. I do film, I do writing, and back in 2013, 2014, I started doing comics with my co-writer, Tim Radecki. And Superbud was our first project, which is a superhero parody. It all revolves around this small town where there's a pharmaceutical company that is working on experimental strains of medical marijuana to try to treat like different illnesses.
That sounds wild already.
And then one of them creates one of the strains that they create gives people powers.
Right.
And so this doctor that works there is like, oh, this is like dangerous. I need to get it out of here. And so this local drug dealer helps her smuggle it out of the lab. But he doesn't know what it is, so he just starts selling it to people thinking it's like, oh, yeah, I got some medical stuff.
Oh, shit.
So then people in the town start getting powers.
Wow. That's, what's crazy? Because when you explained that to me the first time, I saw it being like a show, like automatically. So I feel like, and we already mentioned that there was an idea or a movie that's in the works or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, there always is too. And like in the time since we created it, I've seen like 3 or 4 other people do similar premises. But I'm not trying to float our own boat, but like usually they seem more like overly stoner. Like they don't. Ours is not meant to be like a stoner
stereotype
comedy.
version of what a stoner.
Like there are stoners in it, but ours is meant to be more like sci-fi in that sense. Like,
right.
So like, and also we're trying to play on the fact that like all the people who smoke marijuana are not all cookie cutter the same person. Like different people from different walks of life can all buy weed from the same person and then therefore have different experiences. One can be like a soccer mom, another can be a cancer patient, another can be, someone who accidentally ingests the marijuana.
Right.
So like we wanted to like really play on that. And then some people can be like a typical stoner, and that can be fun too. And that happens to be our main character because that's like what was most true to what we wanted to write at the time, was like the idea that this that this dropout from college who reads comics and smokes weed all the time, that if he was to get superpowers, his natural inclination would be like, I'm going to be a superhero.
Right.
Versus like someone else who might just be like, oh, I'm just going to use this to like, help improve, get an advantage in my daily life.
Right. Was there any build up to his character in terms of like why he wanted to be a hero opposed to saying like, I guess, fuck the world?
He is, well, I think basically he always reads comics. He definitely embodies some of this like kind of idealism from comics. But then also he's just in a point where he, the same way I think a lot of people are when they're like, in their early 20s, right, and either they didn't go to college or they just got out of college and they don't really know where they fit in the world. He's looking for that like sense of purpose.
Okay.
So when he gets powers, he's like, yes, this is like the thing I've been waiting for. This is the thing that, I'm meant to do with my life.
Now, what I know you put pieces of yourself in the comic book. Now, do you feel like you would also do the same thing with the powers that he has?
At 23, yeah, I probably would.
And as now, you would wouldn't be the same.
No, now I don't know what I would do now.
Be like an anti-hero.
I can't really say what I would do if I had the ability to fly right now, other than like enjoy my life. I'd be like, I'm gonna go fly to Nepal, or I'm gonna go and like just take a girl on a date up in the sky. I think that would be my first inclinations right now.
Right.
But I think at 23, yeah, I would have been like, this is the thing I've been waiting to do. I mean, it would make drone shots a lot easier.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I was thinking, I was like, yo, you'd be so creative. Just be like, hold on 1 second. I got to go here real quick and get a quick angle. But it seems like when the younger we are, we tend to, I guess, want to save or be, I guess, praised and stuff that I guess we were lacking early to childhood. And then as you get older, not that you do forget, but you're more in tune like what you need. So it's interesting when they show movie characters. If they showed them younger, they would be like, yeah, I mean, you know, I guess save the world or do something that I wanted to do when I was younger. But when they're older, you're like, you know what? I'm going to take this time to disappear.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like the older you are and the more powerful or whatever powers you have, you're going to be, I guess, self-improving yourself.
Yeah. I mean, did you watch Heroes, the NBC show?
I watched clips of it. I never really got into it like I should, but I heard it was really good.
That was a bit of like a touch point for us when we were developing it, because that had the same kind of like, there's a whole range here, and you can be at either end of the spectrum. You could be someone who is going to go full villain with this. You could be someone that goes full hero, but the majority of people are actually somewhere in the middle, and right. they don't, some people are going to maybe feel self-conscious about having powers. Other people might feel like grandized by it, and you know, what they might decide to do with those powers are like really up to them. But I think the majority of people aren't looking to then be like, oh, put the spotlight on me. You know, right. I think the majority of them would be like, I want to keep fitting in. I want to keep like my anonymity as I get to have it.
Right. I think the approach that you took, where you're taking like this key character and just kind of, I guess, indulge, because it kind of it breaks the stereotype, because there's not a lot of like heroes that you know is like, I guess, smoking weed or, yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's always, they always are seen as, I guess, this anti-hero automatically. Like you just can't be like, yeah, I'm a hero and I smoke weed. Like it doesn't, you know, I'm not like here like Deadpool or anything like that. Like I actually genuinely want to save the world, and it just happens that I smoke weed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, and that was something like I remember being, I don't know, 21, 22. I had just been out of college for a little bit, and I got my first job as a PA on a feature film. And that year, like being on that film, just realizing like, oh, everybody smokes weed. Like everyone's not a stoner. Everyone's not like smoking weed 24 hours a day. But at the end of the day, when everybody's cooling off and having a beer, if they take a hit of weed, that doesn't make them like a degenerate the way that like the way that the war on drugs was made to like make us all think that that's what it was. Like the idea that like weed is a gateway drug, and it's like, I mean, you could say it's a gateway drug, but that just means it was something you tried along the way, but it doesn't mean that it's like the reason you're going to go on to other things.
Right. I used to teach, and there was a lot of teachers that smoked weed, and to me, I was like, "Oh my god, that just blew!" It blew for some. I don't know why. Like that surprised me way more than anything in the world. Not that it was like so absurd. It just didn't cross my mind that yes, when they go home, they are people, they are civilians, and yeah, dealing with all that shit that they deal with on a day-to-day basis, 5 days a week. Yeah, they smoke weed.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, that just blew my mind. And then these people that you would have never least expected, like, yeah, all right, everybody, blah, blah. And he was like, you smoke weed? Yeah, because if I don't, then I lose my fucking mind.
Yeah. Oh my God.
You know,
I've heard that from so many teachers too.
Right? And I'm just like, whoa. And so then that's why I was interested in it when he was like, all right, well, now let's bring that into the fold, because it seems like there's a lot, like, granted, you don't want to, there's no politics involved in like media because they don't want to push a certain way of thinking, but clearly that's a lie. But do you feel like this might push people's thought away from demonizing or maybe causing people to look at people who smoke weeds as degenerates? Was that
I don't know. I think that's a great like point to bring up, but I can't say that it's a motivation.
Okay.
Like, we ultimately just want to tell a fun story and an entertaining story. And especially at the time that we started writing it, it was something that, like, made sense to us. It was like, write what you know. This was something where it was like, at the time I was living in Philly, I was reading more comics than I ever have in my life. Like, I was going every Wednesday to the shop, pick up new comics. I had like a personal relationship with the owners. I would go to Brave New Worlds and I would talk to them there, and I'd be like, what do you recommend? What's new? What do you think? I'd go and read old issues. And at the time, like I was smoking a lot more because I was much less employed. I had a lot more free time, and like back then when I had free time, like that was what me and my friends did. You know, we'd smoke, we'd read comics, we'd go do other stuff, but like, you know, it's not like you don't get like wasted off of like smoking. So it was like a much easier like, oh yeah, it's a hot summer day, let's chill in the AC, we'll smoke and read some comics.
Right.
And so at the time, like that was what made sense to me to write as like a main character. But that wasn't even, you know, the impetus for the story. The impetus for the story was just thinking about like big pharma. And I was thinking about how I was like, oh, you know, this trend of medical marijuana as it's going on, like if big pharma keeps going along this route, what are they going to do to kind of like corner this market? And the thing that my mind went to is like, well, I guess they'll start trying to target specific illnesses like Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or cancer. And what are they going to do? Like maybe it's going to make them start doing like genetically modifying these strains.
That does make sense.
Then I just kind of like, it was just a domino effect. The more I thought about it, the more I was like, but then what happens when like you have these weird freak side effects that might come from some of these strains? And I was like, what if one of them gave you powers? And I was just like, oh, this is the hook. This is the story. And I went home and I was living with my co-writer at the time. And like, so when we had ideas back then, sometimes it'd be like 1 a.m. and we would just like be like, hey, so I was thinking about this thing I've been working on. And then we would just riff on it for like 2 hours and then start writing stuff up.
Right. That, you know, it's wild. It's always when you're with friends that you have the wildest idea, but most of the time it's not documented. Yeah. So that's dope that you're like, hold on, let's write this down before we fucking forget. Now, in terms for your what you call your character, and in the story, I know you're developing I guess somewhat of like a live action.
So we're not pursuing a live action as like a show or a movie, but I think it would be really fun to do a live action teaser just to like take some of the iconic shots from the comic. And it's like so hard when you're a filmmaker and you just want to like play with every medium you possibly can.
Right.
And I'm not an illustrator, so I don't draw these things, but like I do want to like play with the green screen and like mess with all these things. So we started cutting together and like testing some shots, and we have a few fun ideas in mind. But I think ultimately, if it was ever gonna get turned into something, I would want it to be animated. Like Invincible on Amazon, like that's like the ideal.
I think
format.
They'll take it. Amazon would take it. I feel like they would. Or
if
Hulu.
You have Jeff Bezos' number, you just like let me know. I'll give him a call. He's in space right now, I think. But
yeah, he took off. I don't know when he's gonna come back, but that was always an interesting conversation. Like, yeah, so it's like if he didn't come back, like that's a concern. You know what I'm saying? But what would you compare your I guess story, not so much like the contents of like the weeb, like what would you, if you were to put this on screen, what would be the direction? Like what kind of vibes do you want people to get? Like if it was like a Snyderverse, but like Batman the animated series, or like is it dark? Is it like?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think it's tough to say because like we try to be funny in terms of like dialogue,
right,
and and like circumstances. We love like funny things that happen, and we try to play with that as much as we can, but we don't try to be like cartoony or wacky. Like if someone gets hit in the head with a hammer, like they're gonna die. They're not gonna be like you know, they're not just gonna like see stars. So like I would say Invincible is a good touch point.
I was just about to mention that would probably be, because that was the most brutal show. And I watch a lot of anime.
Yeah.
That was pretty brutal.
Archer comes to mind also.
Okay.
But I feel like Archer is like very much dialogue heavy, very much like it's those actors and the way they like improvise the dialogue that really makes that show what it is.
Right.
This would have a little bit, it's a good Future Man on Hulu.
I've been
even
trying
though that's
to see
not a
that.
cartoon.
Right.
That is, I always think of that in terms of like they took a time travel and they parody time travel based off of all their probably favorite time travel stories. So it's like Days of Future Past and Terminator and Back to the Future and Time Cop and all of these things. And they're just playing with the tropes. It's just like this big sandbox of ideas that they get to play around with and have fun with. That's kind of how I would compare it.
I'm gonna have to watch that show because I'm gonna give Castle Rock season 2 episode I guess 1 from that season a chance, and if not, I'm just gonna go to Future Man because I've heard great things about that show, and I like time traveling concepts. Just never indulged in it.
The best thing with season 2 of Castle Rock, I didn't finish it, but the episodes I saw was she plays Kathy Bates' character, but
so Misery's in there.
Yeah.
So they have because they did say, okay, so now I really gotta check it out.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm blanking on the actress's name because
she was actually the same actress that played in the.
No, it's what's her name? She was in Party Down, and she's got dark hair. Anyway.
So they use another actress.
Another actress. She's playing younger than I think the one in Misery than Kathy Bates. But but it's tough to tell too because she's got a daughter in Castle Rock, and obviously Kathy Bates doesn't have a daughter in Misery. So I assumed it was like meant to be a prequel or something like that.
Okay, I see what you're saying. You know what probably was maybe something happened and that led to her.
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
Right, because I was like, there was no, or maybe she does. Maybe she does have a daughter, and then she just never, parents don't talk to their kids.
Well, then I also was wondering, like, when I was watching Castle Rock, I was like, is this actually her daughter? Or is she like kidnapped? Is it like just a girl that she like tells is her daughter?
Wow.
So I don't really know.
There's so many different possibilities. That's why it's interesting to show, like, there's so many like different cameos and different like Easter eggs like from these shows and whatnot that you just like, wait, what?
Lizzie Kaplan, that's her name.
Oh, Lizzie, that's the name of the one that's playing Kathy Bates.
Yeah, she's playing the same character in it, and oh my god, she like nails it. Like she gets all of these like nuanced little parts of the performance down that like you forget Kathy Bates even did, but like as soon as you see it, you're like, yes, that's her.
Wow. Yeah, that movie, first of all, that was one of my favorite Stephen King movies was Misery, because like I was relating to the writer and all of a sudden gets kidnapped to like finish his book and whatnot. Like, oh, you're gonna write more. And then there was one scene that just always crossed my mind, like he tried to leave and then she like broke his ankles again just to make sure he stayed. I'm like, wow.
I feel like someone should have shown that to George R.R. Martin a few years ago and been like, look, the pressure's on. Someone's going to get you.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I think that's actually pretty interesting. But yeah, do you have any movies that I guess you would want to incorporate into Superbud as a homage to like the style? Because there's a lot of movies on like I guess talking like weed and whatnot. There's like Pineapple Express and a comedy.
Yeah.
Movie. You know, would you incorporate anything that you've been influenced into your show?
I would say that definitely a little bit of Pineapple Express in there. Definitely a little bit of Superbad. Those Seth Rogen ones are a good touch point. Also, like not even just comedy, but like Chronicle.
Is that the one with they got powers and then
yeah, I thought that was a really good like grounded version of like, oh, what happens if these kids get powers, because they're not becoming superheroes in it.
No, they're not.
It's a very like closed story where you're just seeing like, well, what would happen in this world where these characters all have their own backstories going into it and how they use their powers in their life, and like they all kind of use them a little bit selfishly. And then it just like gets out of control. And then what happens? Right. And this is kind of the same thing where like these characters get powers and like if they were left to their own devices, who knows where it would go. But you also have the pharmaceutical company that's like, we need to like close this. We can't allow there to be these loose ends out there in the world with our product. We need to get them and contain them.
So now what kind of powers do the people have? especially, what I guess you have to smoke these powers, correct?
You have to ingest it in some way. Okay. So it's different for different people, and it's partly based on like your exposure levels and partly based on just like who you are. And so there's only one strain that gets leaked. So it's not like different strains give you different powers per se.
Okay.
But so the main character gets the ability to fly. Then his best friend, he takes his batch or his like eighth, and he bakes it all into a batch of brownies, and he's going to take it to a concert the next day. But then his little brother comes home and just sees a batch of brownies cooling, and he eats the whole thing.
Oh my God.
So his 10-year-old brother gets the powers in this case, and for him, it reacts as him becoming like a Hulk. Like,
so he just becomes like
he becomes this giant green monster.
And that's something he could turn on and off, or is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's like a little hook to that too.
Okay.
Like we tried to have fun with like the way that he turns it on and off.
Oh, right. So each of these characters, there's the comedy part is how they turn their ability on.
More so like that happens for him, but more so it's just like each person gets different powers. So like another person, he ends up getting powers where he can see the future. He starts getting premonitions. But like he's also like really high the first time he has premonitions, so it's like he doesn't know what he's seeing or what he's experiencing. And then there's these two other characters that are like gangsters, and they're just smoking a blunt before they're gonna go and shoot up this like rival gang.
Right.
They get powers, and it manifests while they're doing it. This attack. So then that kind of takes on a thing, and the way they look at it is they're like, we could take over now. Like we thought we were low level, but now that we have this advantage, we could go up. We could be like the people that are in charge.
Okay.
And then another character, he, like, I don't want to spoil too much, but then like another character like finds out about the weed,
right? And
he goes and steals it. And then he gets a different kind of power that you'll see in issue 4 what he gets.
Okay, so all right, so that I see what it is, because it's like kind of like what kind of power are you gonna get?
Yeah,
like, you know what I'm saying? That there's a mystery in that. That's pretty dope. Now, this is supposed to be releasing when? Because I know you have a crowdfunding.
Yeah, we have a Kickstarter going now. So the first 2 issues are already out. The first issue we put out in 2014, and then issue 2 in 2015. We did a Kickstarter for that. And then this one is for issue 3, which is already done, but not out. So we didn't print it. We got all the artwork done. We did all the lettering. And we actually were like ready to launch this last year, but COVID happened, and we just didn't really feel comfortable like doing a crowdfunder and asking for money when everyone's like waiting on like their next paycheck or their unemployment or their stimulus check. We're like, I don't know, this just doesn't really feel right to us to like do this right now.
Right.
So we waited. We worked on the scripts. We worked on some other stuff. We had a few other projects that we wanted to get going. So as soon as this is done, issue 4 is already in the works. The artist has it. He started working on it. Hopefully, we don't take as long a break as we did between issue 2 and 3.
Right.
But the goal is to have 5 issues done to put into a trade back so that people can pick it up and read it and get like, they won't get the entire story, but they'll get enough of a story that they can be like, okay, I feel like I read enough. I can put this down and wait till the next, 5 issues comes out.
Okay. That'd be good. It's like a kind of like a master collection.
Yeah. It's like a little trade back collection.
Okay, cool. Now, in terms of like, can anybody get the first 2 issues? Yeah,
actually, if you go to the website superbudcomic.com, you can read the first issue for free on there. But you also can go to Comixology. First 2 issues are up there. You can go to Drive-Thru Comics. First 2 issues are up there. And if you pledge to the Kickstarter, you can get the first 2 issues in print or digital formats. And then, because we also we love the idea of like parodying comics. We do variant covers that are sometimes like homages to classic comic book covers. So like the Hulk versus Wolverine.
Yeah.
Like we have 2 really good parody covers of that available. And then you ever read Sin City?
Yes.
So That Yellow Bastard.
Yeah.
I always was like, oh, we should do like a parody of this. So we did one called That Green Flower, and it's issue 1 recolored so that's all in grayscale except for the Superbud green. So everything except for that is black and white.
Now, I can't wait to get the first one and get the second one at the same time, because I think that'd be a comic book that I would print out, have you sign it, and the co-creator sign it as well, and put that on the wall, because I like collecting stuff, like especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
And like people start their comics and whatnot. And how do you feel? What kind of challenges did you think you faced like in the development of it? Because like, granted, the physical copy is out, but like, what did you feel was the issue, like the problems that you faced prior to that?
That's a great question. I think the biggest issue was not really understanding the writing of an indie comic, the pacing of an indie comic. If we were going to go back tomorrow and start from the beginning, issue 1 would probably be a lot faster paced than it is. And we usually get a lot of really great feedback on issue 1 because I think we spend so much time just like getting to know the characters and getting you to kind of understand the world.
Right.
But there's no powers. There's no like superpowers in issue 1. It's really just setting up like for that inciting incident. And then it kind of like going after that, we were just like, wow, like when we're doing an independent comic book, we don't have the same money to throw at as like Marvel or DC. Right. We can't just be like, okay, now you have to do another comic in 30 days and another issue in 30 days after that. We really have to like take our time. So I think we would tell the story in a different way. We would maybe like try to expedite it. We maybe wouldn't have like in issue 1 you meet a lot of characters. We maybe would have like toned it down and had to just meet 1 character or 2 characters in the first issue and then expanded slowly after that.
How often do issues technically come out if you were to buy one? Like if it was like fresh? Is it, you said like monthly? If you're
reading Batman on DC, you're reading it like new issue every month.
So people got, and I'm complaining after like one week just waiting for something like Rick and Morty, and you have to wait an additional 30 days for a comic book. That does make sense. It gets people to like, I guess, brew ideas and theories until the next one comes out.
And you get kind of like a really good, you get like similar to TV, how you watch a season of TV and you get like 1 to 2 really big arcs, like story arcs. That's very similar with comics. So if you're reading Batman, you might get like Court of Owls told over the course of 2 6-month arcs.
Okay.
So you read the first 6 and that would be a trade back and that'd be a really satisfying, but you didn't get the whole story.
Right.
And then the next 6 is kind of like after the mid-season finale, you get a new arc, but it's satisfying in that way.
Right. No, I think, honestly, I think they should talk more so on that, because I remember seeing the movie with Batman against the Court of Owls. Homeboy got his ass whooped.
Yeah.
Bad.
I don't remember if I saw the movie of it. Was that Damian in it?
Yeah, Damian was in it. I think that was obviously his first time being Batman.
Right.
Like, not him being Batman. Robin
being Robin. Yeah.
With Robin. When Damian became Robin, he was rolling with him.
Yeah.
And that was when I guess he found out his mom wasn't dead. Spoiler, everybody. And that's, they were trying to recruit him, but it was still nonetheless like when you find out like the creatures in the owl suit, but the fact that there was a whole rich organization, it was kind of like the anti-Batman crew essentially. Yeah. I never knew that was a thing, and I was like, what do these other people with money do? And then
they're like the Gotham Illuminati,
right? I was like, what? The fact that was like something that they introduced I thought that was pretty cool, and they should definitely have explored that a little more, because what's an enemy of Batman essentially? More money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because Lex has money, he's able to do what he got to do and still get forgiven and get bailed out of jail. But so if you have more money than Batman and Lex, then that means, and you decide not to be a hero, well, that's a problem for Batman.
Well, and also like, and if you ever get a chance, I totally recommend reading Court of Owls, because that was the new 52 launch, which was like DC was like rebranding itself. They started over, so they weren't getting rid of the old storylines. They weren't like doing new origin stories, but they wanted to kind of like make it fresh so that anyone could pick up this new issue 1 of Batman and not feel like totally lost in the world.
Okay.
So Scott Snyder wrote it, and he like
any relation to Zack Snyder?
No relation. But he's an awesome writer, and he's written so many other great comics. But his take on it was like he really wanted to think about. He's like, what's an interesting challenge for Batman, who's taken on all of these different villains throughout his career? And his was kind of to be like, well, Batman thinks he knows Gotham. Batman thinks he knows everything about Gotham. But what he doesn't know is that before he was around, there was a society that has run Gotham for generations and generations since its inception. And they're the ones who really, like, they know about Batman, but Batman doesn't know about them.
And that's a scary thought, especially for Batman, the fact that he doesn't know the unknown.
Yeah.
That's definitely a great take. And you're saying that's the new 52's launch for Batman.
Yeah, and this was 10 years ago, probably.
Right. I definitely catch up because I think they're starting a new rollout of
yeah, they probably are.
They're actually doing Injustice League.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
I'm gonna lose, and I believe it's the same animation for Mortal Kombat, because they love what Mortal Kombat was doing, but essentially it seems like that's what the animation looks like. But I love it because they have to make it rated R, at least. Like, it has to be.
Hope so.
Because that whole storyline with the Injustice League, like, that's why the first 2 games did such an amazing job, is because you had a bad Superman.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so to make this a movie, the animation division for Warner Brothers does such an amazing job.
I know.
It's just their live action is just straight garbage. And I don't know if you saw what I had posted, but
no, what was it?
It was what's his name? I want to say, I don't know if it was David Ayer, or it was what part of a movie?
The guy that did the first Suicide Squad?
I want to say the first Suicide Squad, but it was something along the lines where Superman. All right, so what happened was, one of them, I'll definitely remember, they wanted to do something with Superman's character. Oh, it definitely was the person who wrote it. I don't know if it was David Goyer or something like that.
Oh, yeah, David Goyer.
Yeah, so the writer for the Man of Steel, he said that they
David
had
S.
some
Goyer.
editing that they wanted to do. And there was a part where Superman, when he was fighting, I guess, Zod and the ship, he took his ship that he got to the planet and threw it at the ship to take it down. That was part of it. And that was part of the comment. And the people who made the corrections in the Warner Brother office, they said, we don't want him to throw the ship to Zod's ship, because, drum rolls please, how is he gonna get home to Krypton, bro?
That says so much about the people who are running that studio and in charge of that property.
I had to read that comment so many times to understand what I was like. Did they just wait a minute? You're asking whether he could go back to a planet that doesn't exist anymore, and that's why the movies have been suffering. It's because of the ignorance that lies within the office.
You know, it's like, what scares me about that comment is the idea that, like, what if they did know and they just were like, yeah, but we might just like retcon that later and make Krypton not have blown up.
Because they can. I mean, granted, the dumbest thing Marvel ever did to me was they tried to copyright Loki. That's the only L that they would take. But Warner Brothers trying to resurrect Krypton, that's out the window. But they would try it, though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't put it past them. But the problem is it's like they're not reading anything or watching anything. Yeah. They're just checking the statistics on if it's selling. Mm-hmm. So my problem was when Zack Snyder had mentioned to doing the cut, he had mentioned that they didn't see the original.
Right.
with the what you call it, Josh Whedon's version.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even watch the movie. So he's just like, if you didn't watch that, then what? Then this is gonna be the first time that you're watching this.
If you look into it too, like everything about Justice League, the Snyder Cut, the Whedon Cut. I mean, the Snyder Cut, whether you like it or don't like it, at least it was like cohesive on his level.
Right.
The Whedon Cut is just like all over the place. It makes zero sense. And then when you hear about the changes they made, sometimes they're just like, yeah, we're just gonna like have this person say it instead. We're gonna do reshoots so that we can have like someone have more jokes.
Bro, just talking about that actually angers me.
Yeah.
The Josh Whedon version, because it was a disrespect to the fans and disrespectful to the audience who does maybe not interested in comic books. So when I was watching the comparison to both movies, because I completely just botched the whole fact that I saw the first one, but the second one, it felt like an actual movie. And I realized when I went back and they had a lot of sexual innuendos, or when he fell on top of Wonder Woman and blah, blah. And I'm saying to myself, like, one, my issue is, yeah, that was a dumb scene, but like they made Flash such a Joker character, but granted they never went to comic books and like realized Barry Allen is not the comedian type.
Yeah.
It is Wally West that you're looking for. Why don't you watch the animated movies just to get an idea?
That's the same way I felt about Hal Jordan. Like, why did you cast Ryan Reynolds as Hal Jordan and make him a jokester? That would have made more sense as the other one, the Kyle
Reiner?
Whoever it is that takes over the Green Lantern after the fact.
Guy Gardner.
There's Guy Gardner, but he's a little bit more of like a renegade.
They should have just did.
But there was another one he was like a nice guy. He was an illustrator. He worked for the Daily Planet or something.
It was Kyle.
It was Kyle something.
Yeah.
But he was like a little bit more good natured. Hal should have been like, what's his name?
Chris Pine.
That would have been good.
Chris
I was
Pine
thinking
been
a Mad Men guy.
John Hamm.
John Hamm would have been like. Hal Jordan should be like an Air Force pilot who's like cares more about like duty and military. You must have seen New Frontier, right?
Yes, I did, but for some reason it was Starro related.
It was DC. It was it was Justice League New Frontier, but it was all done in like the 50s, like 50s, 60s, and it's very classic.
Yeah,
age.
I think I see it.
And Hal Jordan is like coming off of like I think the Korean War in it, and he's got some PTSD from it because like he had to kill, and he like doesn't feel great about that. And David Boreanaz does the voice in. He's actually really good.
For anyone who doesn't know who he is, if you ever see the show Angel with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, that's who David is. So for someone who doesn't know who that is,
or Bones,
but yeah, it was interesting. It's just for some reason, I guess when I was watching it, then I guess I was trying to associate it with Justice League, the animated show, and if anything that wasn't like that, I didn't receive it well. But now I probably would appreciate it because they did something else like that. I don't know if it was a Flash movie, but it was the most recent movie, and Flash had went back in time.
Flashpoint.
No,
different one.
It was different. He didn't change anything, but it wasn't. I think it was a Justice League movie, but it was Justice League, but it was a different timeline. It was Justice Society.
Oh, okay.
But it was the Justice League. But you find out, spoiler, the Flash had went back. He's the main character because he was stopping a bullet from hitting Superman. He went back too far.
Okay.
So then when he did, he thought that he was back in time, and because Wonder Woman was in charge of the Justice League and whatnot, and come to find out he was not in a different time period. He was in another parallel world.
Oh, okay.
And that was like the plot twist, because you're like, I didn't see that one coming, because like Aquaman was a Nazi, like it was like a whole bunch of things that were going on. But the story nonetheless was interesting. Like the point of it is that the fact that this movie was just so wild, it would have definitely received well in theaters, and nobody would have bat an eye. Like if they wanted to start maybe not just like a Flash movie like that, it would have been perfectly fine. But we don't need to sprinkle every Warner Brother comic book movie with Batman. I love Batman, but we don't need him to be sprinkled in every single movie. And for them to put him in a Flash movie, it's just like, let Flash movie just be without a Batman.
Yeah.
Because, Batman helps the market. Anytime we put Batman on it, people buy tickets. Yes, it's true. But can we not?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right?
I mean, you look at, like, I feel like Michael Uslan, who, like, brought Batman to the big screen, like, with the Tim Burton movies, like, that changed everything. I don't think Batman had the same kind of, like, franchise Viagra effect back then.
No.
Of like,
he was
I think
a joke.
he was a joke. He was Adam West, you
Right.
know. It was like more of like, oh yeah, okay. The guy who has a kid as a sidekick, I don't know about that.
Right, exactly. No one paid attention. Like Superman, people were on board with that, but he wasn't a dark character. He wasn't like a person that's like a brute and beats people up at night. Like if they did Watchmen in the 90s, that would have probably been the new Batman type of era. You know what I'm saying? Probably been more. I feel like the movies that we have nowadays, like Watchmen was great, and not to take hits at Warner Brothers, but don't you feel like movies look different?
Yeah,
like
definitely.
You know what I'm saying? I thought we're getting better with the cinematography, but I feel like we lost a huge element of like the realism.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that was the biggest flaw for Watchmen was it was too polished. Like it's supposed to be gritty 80s.
Right.
And it's so polished. And like I don't know. I don't know what they could have done better about it. I really think it's like it never should have been a movie. It needs to be a series. You can't have the countdown to midnight effect. Like all that stuff is just too big for 2 hours, I think.
Right. It should have been they should have been more than one. And actually they should have maybe killed spoiler again. They should have killed Rorschach maybe at the third movie or something like that. Yeah, they just did all. Granted,
did you watch the show?
I didn't. I have to watch it.
Granted, that was amazing.
There's only one season, so
yeah,
I'll just sit down and watch that because I heard nothing but great things about that show.
Intentionally, only one season too, though. That's like the beauty of it.
Also, they made sure because I thought it was canceled where they were just like, nah, it's not gonna be another one.
I think Damon Lindelof did it and said like, I'm not going to do multiple seasons. Like, if you guys want, I'm telling a 1-season story. If you want to take this world and go with it after that, that's fine. But this is the story I'm telling. It's done after this. And then and he does a great job of it because he's telling it takes place in present, but in the same timeline as what happened in the movie and the comic.
Oh, okay.
So the movie and the comic take place in 1980 something. I forget what year. This takes place 30 years after that, but in the same world where Dr. Manhattan existed, where the Night Owl and the comedian, all those things happened. And the ending that happens in The Watchmen of like, the thing like killing like everyone in New York, that happened.
Okay.
And these people are living in a world after that.
Oh, so in the movie when he did whatever, like what he did, 30 years later, people are dealing with that issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
And have moved on. And then it's also like one of the cool things is like, we won the Vietnam War in The Watchmen.
Right.
So in this 30 years later, Vietnam is like this weird kind of like it's just like part of the U.S. sort of, right. Or it's like a U.S. territory or something like that. So it's very common for there to be like Vietnamese culture sprinkled in here in the U.S.
Right. And
then also, what was another one? It's like, did you read the book?
No, The Watchmen. No, I didn't. I figured watching the film, I'm one of those where it's like, if I have to read it, I'll read it. But it's like, if I watch it and it kind of gives like the brief overview, I'm good.
Definitely don't have to watch it, or definitely don't have to read it. I would recommend it. It's fun. But the big difference in that is like in the movie, they make the catastrophic event like an explosion that is it seems like it was Dr. Manhattan that did it.
Oh, so
in the book, it's like this alien creature gets teleported to New York City.
Yeah.
This massive squid-like creature, and kills all these people in this like psychic boom. And then what happens is, like, instead of everybody being united against Dr. Manhattan, everyone becomes united against what they think is aliens. They think that, like, we're under attack from an alien species from another planet, and so that's what brings everyone together.
Okay.
Or, like, at the end of I don't remember if this is in the movie, but at the end of the book, there's a whole joke about, like, how Robert Redford might run for president.
Yeah.
In the show, that happened, and Robert Redford was president for like a number of years.
Oh wow! So there's like a connection between the comic book and the show.
Yeah, they go off of the comic book, not the movie, but the movie is pretty close to the comic book, so like you can see the parallels.
Okay.
The little squid stuff is like the biggest difference, and that's not even like a big difference.
Right. So now, in terms of the squid, is it like a starfish or is it like a squid?
It's like a squid.
Okay, because it kind of, because I keep forgetting that Watchmen is a DC universe. So every time I think of like any sea creature that from outer space, I think of Starro.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, that was supposed to be Justice League's first villain, which the Suicide Squad is doing first.
Wait, is that the parasite thing?
Yeah, it's like it's a star.
It takes
with
over Superman and Batman Beyond, right?
Yep. Yeah, because they actually fought that. That's actually not I think that was like their second time dealing with the Starro thing. But yeah, that thing is Starro, and it becomes obviously this giant big thing. But the fact that he had to do that opposed to Justice League doing it is just hilarious to me, because that's how essentially he's doing what Justice League should have done or DC should have done essentially, but just using people that you have no expectations for, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like essentially that's like his form of a Justice League.
So are we getting Batman Beyond? Is that official yet?
For a show or a movie, I think we definitely are, because they're bringing back the comics, and that's probably gonna make people more familiar with the franchise, and then they are going to definitely bring it to screen. I don't know how they're gonna do it, but then again, they did a great job with Miles Morales with what you call Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah,
but Sony, they have no problem taking chances like that because they know Spider-Man is gonna sell. For Batman Beyond to work, they have to figure out how they're gonna film it.
Yeah, I mean, you almost gotta do it like I always think of like Tron, or like Tron Legacy. Like
I would say Blade Runner.
Blade Runner too. That's a great example.
I would say, but like if you mix Blade Runner with the first Spider-Man, because it has to, because it's. Movies to me cinematically has become too polished, like you said, so it's kind of hard. Like that movie would have been perfect maybe in the time of the 2000s with like there was more practical effects than what you call it, CGI, and he has a suit on, so maybe they would have to take like a Iron Man.
Yeah, like do the shot that's inside the mask so you can see his reactions at times.
Right. That would make sense.
That'd be interesting. Who would you want to see as Terry McGinnis?
Terry McGinnis.
If it was live action, who would you cast?
It has to be someone that I've probably seen them act once. They would have to be young. If I want to say Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Oh, I would love that. I feel like he's aged out now.
Yeah,
but
if
he
was
would
younger, I would definitely have casted. Him. Who else would I would cast?
I feel like nowadays they'd go with like Timothée Chalamet or something like that.
Who's Timothy?
He's gonna be in Dune. And
is that the main character?
Yeah,
I was just about to mention. I didn't know his name. I was gonna be like the kid that from Doom.
I feel like he's probably like the obvious choice nowadays for like if it was coming out next year, that's who they would cast.
Because essentially he would have to be. He would be a young Spider-Man. That's if there were. The reason why I'm laughing is because it's starting to be a direct correlation to DC like the one Spider-Man and Iron Man, and then you have Batman, but it's like the older Iron Man,
right,
and the younger generation with Batman. So that's why it's just funny. But I would love to see, obviously, Michael Keaton again as Batman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Playing an older Batman. And then a young Batman I would probably pick from maybe one of the Netflix shows and whatnot. It's kind of hard to figure out. But, yeah, that would be my top two. Would be like a Joseph Gordon-Levitt or the kid Timothy from Dune.
Yeah.
I would definitely have him in there. Because you want a role that they could grow at a young age. Because he was technically in high school, right? So pretty much. But I feel like in the show he was more of a badass. Like Spider-Man when he started, he was like very like the Batman Beyond is more jaded.
Oh yeah, way more.
You know what I'm saying? Which correlates. But obviously you know who his father is. His real father. This is like beyond a spoiler. But if y'all didn't know. Batman's father and Batman Beyond's father is Bruce Wayne. Genetically altered.
Right?
Yeah. No.
Or no, he's not a genetic clone, but he's
not genetically. They removed the fathers.
Right.
And they put the DNA and they made sure Bruce Wayne's DNA was in there.
Yeah, that's
right.
So
the mom didn't even know. Which is fucked up. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's his kid. But it's just interesting that like they needed to replace Batman, so that's what they wanted to do, Cadmus project. But yeah, I think Batman Beyond is gonna be happening.
You know what I love in that episode where you get that like little origin is the very tiny. It's not even like there's nothing verbal in it. But you see that Andrea Beaumont, the Phantasm, that she is in it as the one who is gonna go and kill Terry McGinnis's parents, and then she's like, I can't do that.
Right, and I thought that part was just so powerful because, like, granted, obviously for hire at this point, but she was like, I just can't do it, knowing because she had a relationship with Bruce.
Yeah, she knew the damage. That's like irreparable.
You saw what you created. I mean, what society created, but it's like, it's just wild that I don't know if Batman. I don't know if he told them though, if anything, or if he knew. No, he did know. He's like he knew. He just didn't say anything.
Yeah,
that's what it was. And the fact that like, how do you feel if you just like one day realize like, oh yeah, somebody just took your DNA and put it in somebody else. Like, now what do you do with that information 30 years?
Especially when you find you know that person.
Right.
It's not even like they're just a stranger to you. Like, they're in your life and you just didn't know this about them that whole time.
Right.
I don't know.
There was a movie like that. It was a Shudder. That was when Shudder before they became like their own like little like bigger network. They were mainly on a website, right? And one of their episodes was the Wendigo, and the how they start the story was like they're in a ranch and whatnot taking care of things, and then one of the I guess one of the kids, his father had gone into the wild, and then and he didn't come back for a few days, and he went with some people, and then those people didn't come back with him, and it's like, how did you survive for all that time? And he didn't say nothing. And he was just like very weird and just very ominous. And then eventually he just started to like, I guess, kill people at the ranch or whatnot. And he killed one of the I guess there was a guy there at the ranch that was helping out the mom, right? And the father had killed the guy at the ranch. And he made the mom chop up the body and put it and make it soup.
Damn.
And then he made the wife eat it, and then wanted to have the child eat it. And then he's like, and then the Wendigo person, like, because he started to become more demonized and whatnot. He's like, why? Did your mom tell you who that was? And he's like, who? And he's like, what is he talking about? He's like, that was his father. He killed his father. And then he made them eat the. I was like, holy! But the father was trying to tell him, and he just couldn't tell him. And then the story pretty much was like the Wendigo situation happened, and obviously he didn't know. But they obviously ended up killing the Wendigo and all that. But it was just such a wild plot twist that you didn't see coming.
Did you was in his life. Did you ever see Ravenous? Guy Pearce and Robert Carlyle?
No.
That's like one of the best Wendigo type stories ever. It's
don't
all.
Even tell me, man. Don't even tell me about that. It. And you said it's called. Wait, hold on, because I'm definitely gonna be saving that for tonight.
I think it's like extremely underrated movie.
Ravenous, like this.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch that. You know what? You know what movie I watched recently? What was it called? Was it Jolt? It was Jolt.
Jolts.
It was with Kate Beckinsale, the person that played in Underworld.
Mm-hmm.
So she, they had an interesting concept where.
Oh, I just saw an ad for it. It's up on Amazon, right?
Yeah. That movie is definitely.
What's the concept?
So you know Crank, where he has to like keep his adrenaline up, or just like so with her, she has a problem where her aggression it goes to impulse. So say for example, you're making like a tapping noise like on your, and it's annoying me. In my head, you make a scenario where I guess you punch the person and like fuck them up. Her impulse is her response. So she would break this and then slit your throat. But she like can't stop herself. She can't stop herself. So like when she was growing up, like that's when it started. Mm-hmm. So then she had to go through homes and different places and whatnot. So then this doctor came up with this therapy device where it's like a shocker. So anytime she feels like an impulse, she presses the shocker, and it kind of just like keeps her in check. It kind of kills the impulse to do that, and she's in control of it. And usually people just focus on that part of the story, and that was it. No, that's just an element of her character. Right. The shit that she has to go through is absolutely wild, because she gives them a chance. She's like, listen, guys. All I'm here is for this. I just want to know this. And then she's one of those characters, kind of like a Deadpool, where she explains, like, are we going to have to go through and have to fight your guys? And then you give me the information. All right, let's do this. And then what, is she like a mercenary in it? Like a gun for hire? No, that's the funny part. She's legit. She doesn't have a job, really. She's just going through therapy because she was in the military and she did work with that. So whatever leftover money she has, but she's essentially just living off the grid and just chilling. But she just goes to therapy. She's been trying. The therapist is trying to have her go on a date and whatnot. And, you know what I'm saying? And the first she says she never made it this far. So she's talking with the guy, and then the waitress was giving him an issue, and then she didn't like that, and then she shocked herself. And then she went to the bathroom to clean up, and then that waitress was in the bathroom. So she was just washing her hands and whatnot. She was just trying to. She wasn't making a big deal of it. But then the waitress is on the phone in one of the stalls and just talking shit, saying, "Oh yeah, blah blah. I made him cry like a baby." He didn't cry like a baby. So she was just talking extra, just talking shit. So then she had an impulse of what she wanted to do, and then I think, I don't know if she had left her remote in the car, or like she forgot it on the table, but then she couldn't shock herself. She bust open the door and slammed the woman's head back and forth and whatnot, and punched her in the face and left her there. She was still alive, but she got fucked up. And then she went back, and then she kind of she just left. And then the guy was like, what the hell? So then like she still liked the dude, but then she went to the therapist saying like, yo, I liked him. I guess the impulse that she had was she acted on a different impulse. It wasn't on aggression, because she liked the person. Yeah. She acted on a defensive approach and whatnot. And that's pretty much like when you see the movie, and then when it goes into like the end, it's pretty dope. But that movie's dope. But there's another movie on Hulu called Game Over, I think.
That sounds familiar.
No, Boss Level. I'm sorry. It's called Boss Level.
Is Steven Yeun in that?
No. It's Frank Grillo.
Oh, okay,
Yeah. He pretty much keeps reliving the same thing over and over and over and over again. He keeps dying and coming back. But that movie was one of my favorite Groundhog's Day kind of vibe, because like he already was in the military, so there was no he went from like Tom Cruise situation where he didn't know how to fight to knowing how to fight. It was more so he was already trained. It's just that he had to deal with it was, when I say the wildest shit, when he was dying over and over again, there was a scene where they tried to overkill on him. So he was in his apartment and they had a helicopter come out and shooting him through the window. And you're just like, first of all, this is a residential area with a helicopter. But the reason why I loved it, there was a lot of practical effects in there that it made it feel like an old 90s film, like The Last Action Hero with Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's why I liked it. And also Mel Gibson was the main villain.
I love that. Oh, man. Mel Gibson, I feel like all he can do now is villain parts.
Right. I mean, except he did play a good guy under The Fat Man. I don't know if you ever seen that movie.
No, I didn't see that.
So it was him as Santa Claus. Yeah, so he was pretty much Santa Claus, but it was a darker take. And one of the kids that he put on Nihilist sent a hitman to go kill Santa. But this is Santa exists, but the world doesn't consider Santa in reality, but Santa works with the government, the U.S. government, as like part of the postal service.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so when he sent the hitman, he's like, Santa's not real, but I mean, he's like, oh, do you not want the money? All right, but this dude, he does a lot of hits, so he's like, all right, he did his research.
Took it serious.
He took it serious, and he actually found him. And then it was just wild on how they built up the story. But yeah, other than that, thank you for coming and talking about Superbud.
Anytime.
Is there any projects that you want to let the audience know about?
Oh, I mean, Superbud's the big one. If people can go and check out the Kickstarter, right now we're coming up on our last week, and we're trying to hit as many stretch goals as we can. And right now, we're going to do a podcast, actually, if we hit our next stretch goal, which I think is $7,500.
Oh,
if
sweet.
we can hit that, we're going to do a podcast where we kind of go over the whole making of the comic. We're going to have the artist Tim Lottie on. We're going to go over everything. And yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing.
Sweet. And side note, the He-Man came out. Right?
Oh yeah,
yeah. It was actually amazing because they didn't focus mainly on He-Man.
Is it Netflix or?
It's on Netflix.
Nice.
Yep. So it's definitely worth the watch. Don't listen to what everybody's saying. If you grew up and just watch the show.
So is it tied into? There was a She-Ra, right? Previously on Netflix, like a year or two ago.
Yeah.
I heard that was really good.
Yeah, they just
are they tied in?
No, they just did a different animation.
Okay.
But that's why they were coming at He-Man's life, which was funny. But this story follows Teela.
Okay.
And the way they did it made absolute sense.
I like that.
I don't want to spoil the first episode because it's only 5 episodes, but it pays a lot of respect to where it left off in the early 2000s.
Nice.
And where they lead on to, it just works so well. But at the end of the season, they showed a recap with the actual actors, and they were like doing an interview. Like Kevin Smith was like doing an interview with people. Kevin Conroy was in there.
Oh, nice. Who's he play? Man-at-Arms?
No. He played a random character I didn't see coming. He played as the Merman. These
villain?
Are characters from the 80s as well.
Yeah.
Well, so he was like the Merman from the sea and whatnot, and Skeletor was Mark Hamill. So they played again with each other, which was just nuts.
I love that.
Yeah. So, and there was a scene where they were actually both in the same scene together, but it was I just find it interesting that Kevin Smith pulled the ropes out for the voice actors. They did an amazing job, but they did like an interview, and I feel like when you do your project and whatnot, especially whether it's gonna be like illustration stills, with like voices and whatnot. At the end, it'd be dope if y'all just included that after.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, so that was just my take on it. But thank you for coming to Coffee and Critique. Again, this is Mike Dean. Where can they find you on social media?
All things _Mike Dean on Instagram, all things Mike Dean on Twitter, and allthingsmikedean.com is my website.
Sweet. Now, does Superbud have a Instagram?
Yeah, Superbud Comic on Instagram, and superbudcomic.com is the website. And yeah, please go check out the Kickstarter.
Check out the Kickstarter. We will see you soon. Peace.